4 ways to practice legs up the wall that you probably never tried before. This is printed in Yoga Journal, updated February 8th, 2025. Legs up the wall is what many consider to be an essential restorative yoga pose that you can rely on whenever you feel overstimulated or want to take a nap but don't have the time to fall asleep. What not everyone is aware of is that there are different variations of legs up the wall that you can utilize for slightly different effects. Practicing yoga in small spaces. You don't need a studio space to be able to use these practices. The following practice can be used as a 30-minute restorative yoga class that's focused entirely on different versions of the traditional pose. You can simply try 1 or 2 of these variations on your own, or let the soothing sequence be an invitation to surrender and allow space for you to restore your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Consider it permission granted to pause and rest anytime you need. The options start with a traditional variation of legs up the wall, and then you move into a straddle variation with the legs further apart to stretch the inner thighs and hamstrings. And then you take a deer pose variation to target internal rotation of the hips as well as the inner thighs, before you explore the reclined pigeon and butterfly variations at the wall to target external hip rotation. These poses are suitable for anyone, regardless of your experience with yoga. You can practice the following sequence in the evening, or you can try them in bed if there's no headboard to get in the way, or anytime you need to slow down. No matter how many poses you try, consider it to be a very low effort practice. Let the wall support you rather than try to hold yourself in the position. Also, try to find some time when you're completely free of distractions. Turn off your phone, dim the lights, maybe put some music on, or whatever you need to set the mood and make sure you'll be comfortable. You're not going to want to move much once you begin. Take some time to establish yourself in each pose. If you have your blankets, you can keep them within reach in case you want to cover yourself. Or perhaps you have an eye pillow to cover your face. Or if you're using a bolster, you can play around a little with its distance from the wall. You can also choose what you want to do with your arms. Maybe they go up overhead, or maybe they can rest on your belly or by your sides. Whichever variation you practice, try to remain in it for about 5 minutes or so. Traditional legs up the wall. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and just get into the traditional variation of legs up the wall. I use a bolster because I prefer to have my hips elevated a little, although this prop is completely optional. If you don't have a bolster at home and you'd like to try it, you can stack some bed pillows, couch cushions, or even thick folded blankets to help lift your hips several inches off the ground. You can also play around a little with the distance of the bolster from the wall. I like my bolster pretty much directly up against the wall, maybe like an inch or 2 away. And I find it easier to come into the pose if I sit on the side of the bolster or the mat, and then as I lift my leg, I scooch my hips towards the wall and lower myself onto the mat. Take your take your legs hip distance apart and let them rest against the wall. As you transition your practice, try to keep breathing into the belly every time you exhale. You'll stay here for about 5 minutes in total in this first variation of the pose, simply staying present with yourself and fully relaxing. 1. Straddle legs up the wall variation. From the traditional legs up the wall, you can invite your legs to kind of slide away from each other and closer towards the ground. This is really where gravity does the work for you, so you're not trying to force yourself into the shape. You want it to remain comfortable. Your legs will probably naturally slide a little further apart throughout the time you rest here. You may also want to change your arm position from the previous version if you like. Simply let yourself breathe and come back to yourself. 2. Deer pose at the wall variation. From the legs up the wall, bend your knees and just kind of bring your feet flat towards the wall or down towards the bolster. With your knees bent, you can internally rotate your right hip as if you're trying to bring your right knee against the wall, and you can let your right foot come down to the floor. You may let your left leg just be wherever it wants over to the side. You're not really focusing on what's happening with your left leg. You can linger here and let yourself relax. This creates a rather intense stretch along with your right inner thigh. Some of you may feel the intensity of the stretch in your right knee. So if you experience discomfort, slowly come out of the pose and try the reclined pigeon pose variation that follows instead. Slowly ease out of the pose by straightening your legs and making your way to the second side. Number 3, we have the reclined pigeon pose at the wall variation. From the legs up the wall, you can simply cross your right ankle over the top of your left knee, and then bend your left knee and keep your foot flat against the wall as you slowly lower it to a comfortable amount, whether that's when your shin is almost parallel to the floor or closer to the floor. This brings your right hip into external hip rotation. When you find a position that feels good, rest where you are. You want this to be a nurturing practice, one that helps you embrace doing less. Keep reminding your facial muscles, your jaw, your shoulders, and your neck to relax a little more. When you're ready, release the pose on this side and then switch to the other side. 4. Butterfly pose at the wall variation. From legs up the wall, you're going to come into a version that's similar to butterfly pose, as it's known in Yin Yoga or bound angle pose, Baddha Konasana. But for this, we just bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees fall apart. You might have your heels a little higher up the wall, or they may slide down. Again, we place your hands and your arms wherever is comfortable to you. And if for any reason this pose does not feel suitable to you, you can just go back to the first variation that we did, which is the traditional legs up the wall, and breathe deeply. Side Shavasana. When you are ready, you can bring your knees back in towards one another and just roll over onto your side and off your bolster as you come into a side lying position, sometimes known as side Shavasana. Place your head on your arm and rest here for a few moments. After releasing these inversions, you're letting yourself ground again and settle back into yourself so you can feel the effects of this practice and allow it to integrate. If you've practiced these poses in bed, you can take this final pose under the covers, staying here for about 10 breaths. When you're ready, slowly push your hands into the floor and make your way into a seated position or simply stay where you are. You can close your eyes and pause here before you continue with your day, or perhaps settle into your night.